This video will cover the stages involved in aerobic respiration. It follows on from the first video on respiration, which was about ATP. Now, I said in that video that I was only going to be making 2 videos about respiration, but I'm actually going to make a third one, which is about fermentation, and that will follow on from this video. Now, in the last video, I stated that respiration was the breakdown of glucose to produce energy. When we call respiration aerobic respiration, what we mean by that is that the breakdown of glucose happens in the presence of oxygen. And when that happens, carbon dioxide and water are produced, and so is energy. And you may remember from the last video that that energy is stored in a molecule called ATP. Now, this equation that is written here is called the word equation for aerobic respiration. That is glucose plus oxygen broken down to carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Now, this is actually quite a simple equation here. The process actually involves an awful lot of more reactions that are taking place in here, enzyme-controlled reactions that aren't written into this equation. And what we are going to do in the next few slides is just have a wee look at this process in a bit more detail. Not all the detail that's involved in this, but just 2 of the stages that take place. The first stage of respiration occurs in the cytoplasm, and for this stage to occur, no oxygen is needed. And what happens in this stage is that glucose is broken down to these 2 chemical molecules here called pyruvate. And when this happened, energy is released, and that energy is used to make 2 molecules of ATP. The second stage of aerobic respiration occurs in the mitochondria, and for it to occur, it needs oxygen. And what happens here is that the pyruvate that is here is further broken down. Now, there's lots of stages all in between here, but fortunately you don't need to know the detail about all of these. But what you do need to know is that the pyruvate is broken down, and eventually carbon dioxide and water are produced. And at the end of the stage, there are a large number of ATP molecules that are produced. You used to have to know, and sometimes you might see this in past paper questions, how many ATP molecules are produced. There's actually 36 ATP, but you don't need to know that information any longer for your exam. I said earlier that aerobic respiration involves a whole lot of enzyme-controlled reactions, so therefore a suitable temperature needs to be there for respiration to take place. Stage 2 is the stage that requires oxygen, and that occurs in the mitochondria. So the higher the energy requirement of a cell, then the more mitochondria will be present in that cell, so that there's lots of ATP that is produced. Sometimes you see exam questions which would show you a diagram of a cell, and in that cell there might be a lot of mitochondria in it, and the question would ask you, what evidence is there from this diagram that this cell requires a large amount of energy? And the answer to that would be that there's a lot of mitochondria that are present in the cell. This diagram here just gives a summary of the complete process of aerobic respiration. Stage 1 occurring in the cytoplasm, and in that stage the glucose is broken down to 2 molecules of pyruvate. In that stage, 2 ATP are produced. In the second stage, it occurs in the mitochondria, it requires oxygen, and in that stage, a large number of ATP molecules are produced, and carbon and dioxide and water are produced.